It is October 23rd, 2022. It has been over 40 years since the Phillies won their 1980 World Series 2 days ago to the day. The Phillies are now one win away from clinching a berth in the World Series for the first time since 2009. And it's possible that with a few wins, a few unlikely wins, they could face that same team they faced in 2009, the New York Yankees. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Colin Daly from Phillies Sports Reports live on the PSR Phillies pregame show, here to look ahead on today's matchup between the Philadelphia Phillies and the San Diego Padres in game number 5 of the National League Championship Series. It has been quite the odd playoffs this year. An expanded postseason allowed 6 National League teams to enter, the 3 division winners, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the St. Louis Cardinals, and the Atlanta Braves. The Cardinals were knocked off in the wild card, their first round, and the Dodgers and the Braves were knocked off in the division series, their first rounds. Now, the 2 teams that have surged ahead, the Phillies and Padres, are the 2 wild card teams, and one of those, the Phillies, wouldn't have even been in it if it wasn't for the expanded postseason. Whether this is a good thing or not, it does not matter, because the Phillies are here playing baseball way past the length that we usually see them play. And today we'll go back to Game 1, Zach Wheeler and Yu Darvish on the bump for the 2 squads. This is going to be an exciting matchup. So in Game 1, we saw Wheeler and Darvish face off. It was a very, very well-pitched game between both teams. Wheeler threw 7 innings, allowed 1 hit, no runs, a walk, and struck out 8. Yu Darvish got the loss. He threw also 7 innings, allowed just 3 hits, 2 runs, a walk, and 7 strikeouts. He was absolutely disgusting, and I say he because it's both of them. I mean, Wheeler was incredible. He used his fastball to his advantage. It was great. He threw those over 50% of the time between the 2-seamer and the 4-seamer, and he was very, very, very impressive. I would expect Wheeler to do something similar today. He was blowing away Padres hitters. I mean, what he was doing was awesome. I mean, he got his swings and misses with the curveball, something that we haven't always seen out of him in the past. Usually he'll rely on that slider or he'll elevate the fastball for his swings and misses. But he got a fair number of those in the curveball. And again, something that he hasn't necessarily done in the past. So I really do think that for Zach Wheeler, sometimes you say that when you're exposed to someone, so close in proximity, right? Like, we faced this guy about a week ago. So, is that going to have any type of effect in terms of, maybe they'll see him better, read him better, or whatnot? I really don't think that's going to be the case, because Wheeler didn't even show all of his weapons in his last start. His slider, probably, there were some situations that he could have used it in that he did not. His fastball, it's always a great pitch. Whenever you have a fastball that's above 97 miles per hour, it's a great pitch. So that is going to be huge for him coming into today's start. And I really do expect big things out of Mr. Wheeler today. And we've expected big things and gotten big things out of him in his past outings. As for Yu Darvish, I thought he was almost as good as Wheeler was in Game 1. He made a few mistakes. One of those was a 488-foot mistake that Kyle Schwarber sent a very, very long way. That was a solo home run, and that had some historic feats to it since the StatCast era began tracking home runs back in 2015. And Schwarber has had success against Darvish. Hopefully that continues into today. And if that does, that would be a great, great impact for this Phillies offense, which I'll get into this later. I do think that this should be a big day for the Phillies offense. Because I don't think that Darvish is in the same boat as Wheeler. But again, I'll get to that in a few minutes. But again, we have Phillies-Padres Game 5. What's it, Game 2? Game 5 of the National. I'm looking at the number 2 on my screen up here. Game 5. I promise it's Game 5 of the Championship Series, coming up in about 25 minutes here. So make sure to stay tuned into our show today. And also make sure to go on and follow us on Twitter at Philly Sports Reports. That is our main account. And make sure to follow all of our writers. You can find those on our website. PhilliesSportsReports.com will have a post-game write-up on today's matchup. Anyhow, we would like to make sure to remind you to leave your questions in the comments. We can answer those, or any conversation pieces you'd like to have. Make sure to put them into the YouTube comments. Anyway, we are going to continue talking about our pitching matchup. I told you I want to get to why I think that the matchup today between the Phillies and Yu Darvish is in the Phillies' favor. Yu Darvish is a crafty pitcher. We saw that in his most recent outing. By the way, the tarp is coming off the field at Citizens Bank Park. It is a great sign. We've had on and off rain all day. That is so good to see. But anyway, Yu Darvish, Philadelphia Phillies, crafty pitcher. Those are the things that we saw in game number 1. Now here in game 5, the Phillies just saw him. And I mentioned earlier that I do believe that it does have an advantage when you see the same pitcher over and over and over again. And that is the case with the Phillies and Yu Darvish. Darvish has, he throws a lot of pitches, but he throws more than he actually has in his arsenal. Because you might say he's got a changeup, a curveball, etc. He actually does throw a changeup. But he has different versions of these. He has the tight curveball. He has the 12-6 Uncle Charlie curveball. It's very loopy. And it's pretty cool how he's able to manipulate those different pitches. Now, by manipulating these pitches, it leaves Phillies hitters off balance. What we saw in game 1 is he would use this to deceive the hitters, and these deceptive pitches would kind of keep them off balance. He'd start off with the breaking balls or the off-speed pitches. He'd finish the at-bats with fastballs. I mean, people were going berserk on social media saying, the Phillies cannot hit a fastball down the middle. Swing the bats. And you know what? I mean, you're not wrong, but it's so much easier said than it is to be done. Because he's pitching backwards. These pitches, it looks like it's going to break right out of the strike zone. And you don't see guys, especially starters, you don't see them pitch backwards too often. I mean, while it's not good and it does not look good, by no means does it look good, it makes sense to say, it's a fastball that's middle, almost middle. I was expecting that to drop out of the strike zone. I thought it was going to be a loopy curveball for a ball. It doesn't look good, but it makes sense. I mean, he made Phillies hitters look like amateurs in his game 1 start. But I don't think that can continue. As the game progressed, after Schwarber went yard, Harper had that wall hugger, which did end up being a home run. I'd like to point out that there's only 2 home runs in the game, and it was not even close to being one of the top distances. And that shows you luck was on our side in that game 1 matchup. But I think that Darvish today, I'm sure he'll have some success. But I really do think this could be a big day for the Phillies offense, because if he continues to pitch the same way he does, he's got good stuff, but it's also predictable. I mean, he doesn't put his fastball, it doesn't have too much of velocity on it, 93, 94. Occasionally, he'll get it up to 95. But, if the Phillies hitters are able to recognize these pitches, they have plenty of time to react. And when you see someone, so close in proximity, right, under a week ago, then yeah, it is possible that the Phillies will have the advantage, knowing that if they're patient, they will have time to react and adjust and say, all right, he's not pitching backwards anymore. Because in his last start, after the Schwarber and Harper home run, he started pitching traditionally, where he'd start with fastballs and then drop the curveballs, and that's really how he got through those 7 innings without having to be pulled earlier. And this actually does kind of correlate to one of my keys for today's game, which is to stay patient, right? Let Darvish pitch. Try and see how he's pitching. Start to understand it, to recognize it. How is he going to approach hitters? How is he going to approach different hitters? I mean, if Darvish goes with a slider for 3 straight pitches against Castellanos, I would not be surprised. Nick Castellanos cannot touch Yu Darvish's slider low and away. He cannot touch it. And I'll make this a reminder to use code Philly Sports Report for $20 off your first SeatGeek order. You'll save $20 in the first order, like I mentioned, by using that code that I have on the screen right down below me. And all that information can be found on our Twitter page or any of our social medias. Information on our SeatGeek sponsorship is there. I'll have an advertisement for SeatGeek coming later to help you guys out with how to use it. Anyway, David Phillies offense already said that. What about Zach Wheeler? I mean, Zach Wheeler was absolutely incredible in his all of his postseason starts. And I will sit here and argue a wall that even in this start where he was not perfect, he still had excellent stuff that day. The Phillies defense let him down in that Atlanta start, and he kind of unraveled from there. And I think that was actually one of the best starts I've seen Wheeler had in terms of stuff. His control wasn't perfect. He wasn't locating everything as well as I would have hoped. I'm sure as well as he would have hoped. But in terms of his stuff, it almost looked like confidence in those first 5 1/3 innings, I think it was. He was absolutely awesome. And he was fun to watch. And everything he was doing was very, very good. So I would not be surprised to see him continue. And again, we know we're going to get from Mr. Wheeler, right? The fastball, the slider, everything's going to be really good. He's going to locate super, super high velocity. I'm actually going to go back to my notes from our Game 1 pregame that did not get posted because of technical difficulties. And I've got a few notes down I want to share with you. Mainly because I shared them on the first game of the championship series. But I don't think people realize, how good Zach Wheeler really is. I mean, his stuff blows me away. It blows me away. He is so good at elevating the fastball and receiving hitters with the overlay of his fastball and his breaking ball. You never know what's coming when you're facing Wheeler, and all of his pitches have ridiculous movement. The two-seam was very, very good for him. Something that we have not always seen in the past is that good movement on the two-seam, and he definitely had that going for him in game number 1. A few notes that I had on Wheeler, that he was his velocity has stayed up, and I think that's huge for him because we saw some velocity dips when he came back, a lot of inconsistencies with that velocity, but now that it's stayed up, he's been a whole different pitcher. And it actually took me to realize, until those few starts around when he was injured, and even coming off the injured list a little bit, we didn't see it in the beginning of the game, but towards the end of the game, is when his velocity would fall off in the 93, 94 range. What I noticed, or actually I shouldn't say what I noticed, but what I had the realization that how much he relies on the velocity, and it's such a big part of his pitching. Because at the major league level, you see a guy out there like a Nola who's throwing 93, 92. The success that he has proves to you how much that curveball has an effect on the way he pitches. It's incredible. Where Wheeler, he doesn't have the velocity. He is just not as good. And he was incredible in game number 1, and the fastball was a huge part of it. And in game number 5 today, our 2 o'clock matinee, I would expect the exact same thing. So big things to come for Wheeler and the Phillies. But I'm going to get into our lineups for today's ball game and who I think could be the biggest possible threats out of the said starters for the Padres. I'll start with the San Diego Padres. Jerickson Profar is in left to lead off Juan Soto, Manny Machado in right and third, respectively. Drake Cronenworth in second base. The designated hitter is Josh Bell. He's hitting 5th. Brandon Drury is playing first base, batting 6th. Ha-Seong Kim is at shortstop. He's hitting 7th. Trent Grisham has sort of turned it around here in the postseason. He's got 3 home runs between the three series the Padres have played. He's hitting 8th, playing center. And Aaron Nole's brother, Austin, we've got some in-house brotherly love. He's batting 9th, catching. And I'm going to have to go to the guy who has not had a ton of success with San Diego. That's Josh Bell. And I feel like I'm cherry-picking statistics here, which I really do hate doing. But I'm going to have to because of how perfect Zach Wheeler was in his last start. Really, Josh Bell, I mean, he was pretty good off of Wheeler. He did not have a hit. He struck out twice. but he hit a ball very, very hard. I think it was 115 miles per hour off the bat, something in that range. And that is, I'm not going to say the word concerning, because when you go 7 innings and allow 1 hit, there's nothing to be concerned about. But that is, something that shows he was seeing the ball pretty well off of Wheeler, if that's the case. But then, there's also the 2 strikeouts that kind of negates that. I mean, I could go and I could focus on the 1 single hit the Padres had the entire game. That was a Will Myers single, which I believe that came in the 4th inning. I'll have to go double check that right now. But you can't ask for much better than that. And a lot of the strikeouts that Wheeler had were on the fastball and on the breaking balls. He doesn't really use his off-speed pitch much. But I would watch out for Bell, because anyone who barrels the ball 115 miles per hour off of a pitcher clearly seen it well enough to do so. So while I don't think that he's going to make the difference in this game, it's definitely something that I'd be careful with. I would not attack him with too many fastballs, because he has driven those in the past. Let's go on to the Phillies now. Their starting lineup for game number 5, very, very similar. Well, I shouldn't even say similar. It's the same as we've seen with Schwarber, Hoskins, Realmuto, Harper, Castellanos, and Bohm, and then Stott, Segura, and Brandon Marsh. It's funny how you look at the lineups now that I'm looking at them. I've got, I'm on MLB.com, of course, so I've got the average, the home run, the RBIs, the stolen bases. Phillies haven't stolen a ton of bases in this postseason, but their entire lineup is really producing. Schwarber's got 6 RBIs. Hoskins has 9 RBIs. Realmuto's got 3 RBIs. Harper's got 9 RBIs. Castellanos has 6 RBIs. Somehow, miraculously, yeah, sure, he's got 9. I'm sorry, he got 6. Looking it upside down. Just kidding. Bohm's got 5. Stott with 3. Even I think some of Stott doesn't have a ton of RBIs. The hits that he does have, they lead up to RBI hits. I think he scored a ton of runs in this series, or in the entire postseason. And Segura's got 5 RBIs. Brendan Marsh has 4. Obviously, 3 of those came from his 3-run home run versus the Braves. And that really shows you what this team is built off of. Now that they've got a fully healthy lineup, which I'll tell you, they got healthy at the right time. They did not have this lineup for very long in the regular season. The lineup that consisted of Schwarber, Hoskins, Realmuto, Harper, Castellanos, Bohm, Stott, Segura, and Marsh. They didn't have that lineup for very much in the regular season. They had it a little bit towards the end. There might have been 2 or 3 games in there before Nick Castellanos got hurt where they had this lineup. Obviously, this has to be with Brandon Marsh. He was out in the Phillies for April through July. So this team, now that it's fully come together, it's funny how, the small holes that we had in there really were making the difference. Now that there really aren't any holes now, it allows the entire lineup to produce. And it's awesome to see how they've been doing without, the injuries just being a burden for them. I'm going to go into my key to the game. I already said one of them. So I would like to go to my second one. So now, of course, Benjamin Goldstein could not be here with us today. I'm sure it's pretty obvious by now. So I'm not going to short you guys on your keys. And my second key actually kind of correlates to my first one. And that's going to be about Yu Darvish. It's getting him, being patient with him and understanding those pitches. If the Phillies are able to execute this, there's a transitive effect that really, really helps them out, and that is the potential of him leaving the game early, maybe after 5 innings, and and allowing hopefully a few runs and the Phillies being on top. But I do think that if the Phillies, and this kind of, I guess this will lead into my prediction for today's game, is if the Phillies are able to get some runs in the middle innings, they will have a ton of success. The reason for that being, Mike Clevenger did not record an out in yesterday's ball game, which was a 10-6 Phillies win, which was an absolutely incredible victory. We saw Harper with big hits. Realmuto went yard. Rhys Hoskins. Are you kidding me? The man had he had 4 RBIs. He has been awesome. He leads the Phillies in RBIs this postseason. I think what's absolutely crazy here is when I'm looking at my keys to the game, I was really trying to think about something that's, out of the ordinary. And instead of looking at a Phillies positive, I went to look at a San Diego weakness, which is the middle part of their bullpen right now. Because of yesterday's awesome Phillies performance, their bullpen is not going to be totally available today. And if so, it's going to be on a pretty short leash. The back end of it is going to be available. The Robert Suarez's, the Josh Haders. Those guys can throw, but the middle of the bullpen was used. The entire middle of the bullpen was used yesterday. From Tim Kelly to Luis Garcia, everybody was used. Former Philly, Luis Garcia, I must add. And that will eventually come back to hurt San Diego if Darvish doesn't go, I'd say, at least 7 innings. I truly believe that if Darvish does not make it 7 innings, it has to be a lock for Phillies win. Because they have to be exhausted. They had to get all 27 outs yesterday. And you cannot afford a bullpen game, especially an accidental bullpen game, in postseason play. First pitch is coming up here in about 14 minutes. I'll get you off here in about 7 at 2 o'clock for our 30-minute pregame shows. Just enough time. Especially when I'm riding solo. Not a ton of there's a lot to say and a lot of time. Unfortunately, I don't have all day to make notes. That's actually why I was about 30 seconds late to be live today, because I was finishing up my notes. Anyway, I'm going to go to my standout stat, which again is brought to you by SeatGeek, the most efficient, the easiest, and what will be your favorite way to purchase your tickets. Use code Philly Sports Report. Again, that is Philly Sports Report. There is no S on the end of report. It is just Philly Sports Report. You will save 20 buckaroos on your first SeatGeek order, and you will not regret it. All you have to do is go on the app, make sure you're logged into your account. If you do not have one, you can sign up. Super simple. Find your event. It can be a concert, a sporting event. We've got the quad going right now, right? The Philly Sports Quad. The Phils are in the postseason. The Sixers are starting up. I can't even talk about them. I'm glad I'm not Mr. Sam Hyden, our Philadelphia 76ers reporter. I feel bad for him right now. The Sixers are struggling. Make sure to use the code whenever you're going to your sporting events, especially if it's your first time using SeatGeek. You'll save 20 bucks. And find your green dot seats. They're your best deals. Make your purchase. Save some cash. Enjoy the game. Tag us on social media that you use this. You will absolutely love it. And you know what else you'll love is my 2 standout stats are brought to you by SeatGeek. Like I just mentioned. Number 1. I'm going to go to Phillies notes on Twitter. They mentioned this about an hour ago. They posted something. And I was blown away by this stat. I knew Bryce Harper was having an awesome postseason, that he was performing at the level that we expected him to, after his 2021 MVP season. He has a 1311 OPS, which would rank 7th all-time in a single postseason with a minimum of 40 plate appearances. That is directly from Phillies Notes on Twitter. You can follow them at Phillies Notes. And look at the guys he's up there with. He's not up there Taylor Featherston's, the Cameron Perkins, and the Peter Borgeses. If you watch that era of Phillies baseball, I appreciate you. He's up there with these guys. Barry Bonds, Beltran, Ricky Henderson, Paul Molitor, Willie Stargell, Reggie Jackson. And the man, the MV3, Bryce Harper. It's been incredible what he's done this postseason. It's been incredible what he's done since he's become a Philly. It was incredible what he did in 2021. And now that he's finally figured out his timing after really struggling coming back from the injured list. And I remember, people overlook this all the time. The dude has a messed up UCL. He's not even healthy. He's still doing this. And when you look at this Phillies season, it's incredible what he's done. Incredible. The Phillies at one point were 21-29 under Joe Girardi. He clearly didn't want to be there. He made that completely obvious. Joe Girardi was not fit for Philadelphia. There you go. I said it. Joe Girardi, not fit for Philadelphia. It was as clear as that. It was clear as day. At that point, Bryce Harper, they could have said we're 21-29. Nick Castellanos is struggling. Kyle Schwarber, barely batting 200. Bryce Harper cannot play the outfield. Put Harper on the 60-day injured list. Mentioned for the season. Let him get healthy. Let Costi and Schwarber figure it out. Play the young guys. Let them develop. That's what Dave Dombrowski, that's what Sam Fuld, that's what all those guys up in the front office could have said. But they didn't. They made deadline acquisitions. They let Harper DH. They figured out who needs to be the starting shortstop. They decided that Didi Gregorius era in Philadelphia is over. They made that decision. That decision worked. Bryson Stott has been killing it in the starting role. In this postseason, Stott's only hitting 192, but his hits are huge. I'm telling you, he's the next Chase Utley. He has been so good. It's crazy. But when the Phillies team decided, it's everything is focused around Harper. We've seen that for years, ever since he's come here. When they decided not to hang it up at 21-29 with Bryce Harper partially hurt, with Bryce Harper not able to play a position in which he locks it down, has a gold glove caliber arm, gold glove caliber glove in right field, they didn't do that. They didn't make that bad decision. And look where we are now. We're one win away from the World Series. Bryce Harper wouldn't have the ability to come out here in the postseason and hit a ridiculous 410 with 9 RBIs in October in the postseason in these 3 incredible series the Phillies have played. He's been unbelievable. Unbelievable. That's Rob Thompson's favorite word. I like the word incredible. Rob Thompson likes the word unbelievable. Make sure to comment your predictions before we end the stream today. But you have to give something to the front office. I mean, they could have just decided to hang it up right then and there. But they didn't. They didn't. That's crazy. It's crazy. It is awesome. And, we look back on it, hindsight's 2020. You might think the Phillies front office at that point, their vision was 2020. I can't even put it into words. I said that on Twitter yesterday. I was speechless. I can't tell you. I mean, no one would have thought that this 87-win team with Kyle Schwarber as the leadoff hitter, Rhys Hoskins can't field a ground ball, Bryce Harper being hurt for almost the entire season, you wouldn't expect him to be here. But the pieces of the puzzle came together at the right time, and look where we are now. It's been an incredible run, and I don't think this run is over. This brings me to my prediction of the Phillies taking a 4-2 victory in game number 5 of the National League Championship Series. We're going to have JT Realmuto is going to go yard again. Rhys Hoskins is going to have an RBI double off the wall. And 3 of the Phillies' 4 runs will come in the 5th inning. That is very specific, but it lines up with some of the things that I pointed out in today's pregame show. Thank you all for listening. Make sure to read one of the Phillies analysts' post-game write-up on PhillySportsReports.com. Follow along with my game tweets on my Twitter page. Follow along with our social media posts on Philly Sports Reports. We are on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Twitch. I believe all of those are in the description below. Maybe not Twitch, but we are not very active over there. Make sure to follow all those. Comment anything you'd like me to cover before I wrap up the show. And I believe that is all I have for you. Thanks again for listening, and go Phillies.